Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Many of us struggle with sales, whether it's from confidence, comfort, or just not wanting to be salesy. We want to help our customers. We know we can, but we complicate the process. This podcast is designed to help professionals like you improve at sales through process, practice, frameworks, and thinking differently about what you already know. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and we are with the founder of Catalyst Sale, Mike Simmons. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jody. And I have news to announce because I think we're now in March. So this has now officially been announced. We've not talked about it on the podcast yet, but now feel comfortable doing it. I am no longer just the founder of Catalyst Sale. I've changed the business up a bit. I've accepted a CRO role, a Chief Revenue Officer role with CyberSafe, a cybersecurity company in the UK, and really excited about it. We'll include a link to the post that I share around this announcement, but not only the founder of Catalyst Sale, which will continue to go on the media side, meaning we'll continue to do the blog, we'll continue to do the podcast, we will continue to publish courses. There are members of the team who will make sure all of that stuff happens in the background. But I've shifted my focus and I will not be taking on any additional customers. I'm now back in the land of employed. Who would have thought?
Oh my goodness. That is big news. And I think I read between the lines, and I think Mike is saying we're going to record some episodes on location in London. Did I get that right?
Yeah. It's once they're out of their whatever level lockdown they're in right now, which again, now we're going to be in March and we'll see how things continue to evolve. But at some point I'll be back out there. Right now I've been doing this from Arizona, and I mean, I have some background images. I can put Buckingham Palace in the background, and you can put, one of the parks in the background, and then we could feel like we're in London.
Well, you do what you can with what you've got where you're at.
100%.
So there we go. And speaking of, I don't know if that's a good transition, but so with Mike's big news, we're going to move to something that's smaller news, but curious at least. Here's one thing I know people struggle with, Mike. They think, oh my goodness, I've got to have a presence on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And now all of a sudden there's a new platform that we're hearing about, Clubhouse. Do I also need to be there? So Mike and I wanted to talk to you about Clubhouse. Mike, does a sales professional need to be on Clubhouse?
It depends. Like anything else, it depends. I mean, it depends on what you want to get out of it. It depends on what value you want to deliver to others. What's your general intention? It can be a giant distraction. For those of you who follow Andreessen Horowitz, you would have heard a lot about Clubhouse going back about 6 to 8 months as they started investing in this platform and this technology. In December, something changed relative to the launch of Clubhouse, and people who I had not heard mention Clubhouse before, now we're talking about it. In fact, I got an invitation from one of those people who happens to be the guy on the other side of the microphone. Jody is the one who got me into Clubhouse after I'd been on the waiting list for a while. I think I had been on the waiting list for a while. But anyhow, Clubhouse is now here. More and more people are getting access. It still has this kind of cachet of being limited in that you have to be invited. Not only do you have to be invited, but you also have to access via some type of iOS device, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone. So it's kind of an interesting place, and it's getting a lot of attention. And even it's been fascinating to watch over the course of the last, now what has been about 30 days, 35, maybe 40 days since I've had access, how so many people who were really public in a number of other channels were not in this channel, and now all of a sudden are in this channel. And you see them continuing to invest time, energy, and resource in it. So should you be on it? It depends. It depends on what you're trying to get out of it and what you'd like to do with it and how you'd like to share with it. But yeah, it depends.
If someone asked me, should I be on Clubhouse? The first thing I would say is yes, sign up to make sure you get your name, and then be careful. Not that anything dangerous is going to happen, but I'll tell you what I see is when I just pop into Clubhouse, I will see the same names there. No matter what time of day, they're in a room doing something. And I'm just afraid that, because it's really cool, you may really enjoy it. And I'll talk about some of the downsides too, but you'll probably really enjoy it. But it's just another distraction to make you a consumer. You just listen and you listen and you listen, and then you don't do anything. And that's what I'm afraid is happening with Clubhouse, is it's distracting more people into consuming more content that they won't take action on.
Yeah. And the thing that indicates to me that I'm doing it right is I don't think you and I have ever been in a room together. Now, Jeff Knoll and I have been in a room, and that was a room that was started by Jeff Bajorek. So now we've got two Jeffs who are doing that kind of thing. But so we're not crossing paths there. And I think that's a function of both of us being deliberate about when and where we put time in there. So the level of intention you put toward it is really important. One of the things I want to talk about today, not into the functionality of Clubhouse and what's working and what's not. It's kind of cool. It's this, I think of conference calls that you used to get on when you had to dial into a conference number and then you put a PIN number in and you get on there and nobody could see each other because we weren't on Zoom. It's kind of like that, but at a much larger scale. So you have to be really intentional about listening. So there's some cool things, there's some novelty, but to Jody's point, it's about gathering attention. Somebody out there wants your attention. They're getting more of your time, more of your attention. And it's one of those things where you can apply that attention while you do other things. So you can just listen in. For me, I kind of dip my toe in and get out of it in the same way that I with Twitter and LinkedIn. I don't do really much of anything on Instagram. I don't do anything at all on Facebook other than we've got the Catalyst Sale Facebook account. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I think it's interesting and fascinating to think of it in this way. And Jody, you had mentioned, hey, I was getting a lot of value, and hopefully I'm not throwing you under the bus here because I have the same opinion on the sales side. You were like, I was getting thought it was interesting, but now I'm seeing all the same digital marketers in there. And it's this pool of the same pieces of information again and again and again. And I'm seeing it on the sales side too. And the various communities that I follow, some of the people who weren't there, who now are there, and they're just trying to do a lot of the same stuff that they were doing in other channels now in this channel. And it just reminds me of I think this is a Boy Scout thing, but leave your campsite in a better place than it was when you got there. So it seems like we are taking this cool technology, this interesting place where you can interact with people, and we're polluting it with the same crap that we've left in LinkedIn and Twitter and all the other social places. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm afraid that's what it's become. And I've found how you can avoid that, how you can get more out of it. And I opened the app while Mike was talking because I wanted to give a sample of the rooms that were in there because I thought they were going to be the typical rooms, which actually don't. So when you open the app, Mike and I probably won't see the same rooms because it all depends on who you follow and that sort of thing. But I opened and there's 3 rooms in the hallway, I guess they call it. One is First Holocaust Survivor on Clubhouse. The next is Marketing, Branding, and Business. And the third is Artists and Creatives talking about art and more. But usually you'll see a room like how to use Clubhouse to grow your business, you see so many Clubhouse rooms about how to use Clubhouse to grow business. And I went through, because I was curious. I'll admit I did this. I was curious about, okay, here's someone I see showing up in Clubhouse all the time. And I want to follow his funnel to see what he does. What is it that he keeps pitching everybody in here? And I did. I'm not going to name any names, but I followed the funnel all the way through and was so disappointed. And I thought, oh my goodness, because one of the things he was pitching was podcasting. And I'm like, well, all right, maybe there's something here for me since I do have podcast courses and do coaching. And I just followed through his funnel and I thought, oh, this is bad. I do not like this. And it was a big turnoff. And to realize that, and I've heard jokes about their rooms that are just, the bros in there talking about all I did was come in a Clubhouse and get people to click one link and I made 7 figures. And people are already making 7 figures.
No,
they're claiming that they're claiming they are. You'll see it. I thought for sure when I opened Clubhouse, there was going to be a room because almost any time you can open the app and there'll be a room telling you how to go from 6 to 7 figures. It's almost a guarantee, except this time I opened and it wasn't there. So it's just kind of a turnoff. All right. So to me, it's like walking down the street and there's a lot of establishments. Okay. I'll equate it to Key West. I visited Key West, and during the day, walking down the street in Key West is very pleasant. There's music. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. There's good sights to see. There's roosters walking down the road. But then at night, it's noisy. There's a lot of different stuff going on. It smells like cigars and sweat, and it's just not, and you're like, oh yeah, you just have to be more selective about what doors you walk into.
Or what bars. We were in Key West for a sales meeting a number of years ago, and I will never forget this. I actually shared the story with Jen and the kids because we're talking about a Florida trip later this year. And one of the bars we were the upstairs, and as you're walking up there are these signs that start talking about clothing being optional. And you're kind of like, man, I'm an Arizona guy. I have clothing optional. Who's going to go to a bar, clothing optional? Some dude showed up not more than 20 minutes later. The only thing he was wearing was a hat, a little straw hat. And he started dancing. I was standing next to the HR person inside our organization at the time. It was back when I was still with O'Reilly. And I said to Becky, I said, I think we've got an HR problem. And so, yeah. So when you're in Key West, make sure you read the signs, read the signs.
Yes. And just like Mike was saying, you just be selective about the rooms you go into, because not all of them are good. Some of them you're not going to like what you find. But it is neat that Mike and I like audio. He's really getting more into video now. But Mike and I really like audio, and Clubhouse is all audio based. And there's a lot of fun things about it. I think you can use it in good ways. You just have to be deliberate.
Be extremely deliberate and extremely intentional, and know that there is a significant amount of design that went into this implementation and this rollout. Like, it is fascinating to step back and watch the buzz that happened and the anticipation. And then you start to get people in Slack channels where other communities are going on, where people are asking for Clubhouse invitations. And if I'm in a channel and someone asks for a Clubhouse invitation and I've got it, I just tell them to send me to text me. And that's how Clubhouse connects these things. So Clubhouse will actually show you who certain people, how many people, not who they're connected with, but of the people that are in your phone, how many of them are connected to others in Clubhouse. So, keep in mind, you're not paying for this thing other than with your attention and with your data. So you are paying for it with some very important pieces of information, your attention and your data. All that being said, if you're out there, you're listening, and you'd like access to Clubhouse, send me, I want to figure out exactly how I want to do this. The first thing I have to think of is, the first 5 people who send an email to me at podcast@catalystsale.com, I'll just add them to the list. But I actually want to have a little bit more fun with it. What I want to do is, instead of saying the first 5, ask a question, because we're looking at other content we want to deliver this year. We shared the update. I'm going to focus on building a sales team inside and developing a revenue generating engine inside a cybersecurity company, CyberSafe. I'm happy to answer questions about what goes into my processes, thinking about this and why I'm making this shift. I'm also happy to answer any questions related to sales skills. I'm also happy to answer any questions related to sales coaching, sales leadership. What I would like is you to inundate us with questions, and we will draw 5 people out of that list of questions and give them an invitation to Clubhouse. Now, keep in mind, in order to access the app now, you have to be on iOS. So if you're out there, like I was a number of years ago, using Android, because iOS is for soccer moms and people who think they do work, you're out of luck for right now. But if you are interested and you want to try it out, the thing I ask you to do is just inundate us with the question, and we'll put you in a drawing, and we'll get invitations out there. But any questions, because I want to have a lot of fun and have more flexibility in the type of content that we deliver on the Catalyst sales side, because it's, I've got 2 aspects of the business. One is the media side, which is what we're doing with Catalyst Sale, and then the thing that I'm doing over with CyberSafe, which is where pretty much all of my attention is going to be, except for when I record with Jody or periodically record courses. So send those questions along to podcast@catalystsale.com.
All right. That's good. And I will give one more tip on Clubhouse before we wrap up. If you want to make better connections and get more out of Clubhouse, find the rooms that have fewer people in them because it allows you the chance to get involved in the conversation, and the big rooms just get out of hand. Although you may enjoy those because sometimes there's a celebrity or a big name that's doing a room. Yeah, that's kind of cool. But I get bored with those before long. But the small rooms, 20 people or less, are usually wonderful.
The level of access that you can get. I was in there in a room earlier today. I was just listening and in the background while I was working on some data stuff. And every once in a while, I either have a podcast going, and that's another thing that you can do with Clubhouse. You could just have the audio going in the background while you work on other things. There was a room where they were talking about some emerging technology, including AR and VR. So augmented reality, virtual reality type content. And one of the people who was in the room was the head of product with Unity. And this is a person where I would never be able to get their perspective. They're not going to answer a call from me related to questions that I've got about AR, VR. But he started talking about how he's using, and I am going to butcher this, but in the back of the iPhone now, there's, I think it's called LiDAR, is the functionality that will allow you to scan a room so that you can create augmented reality environments. If you've ever watched Batman, The Dark Knight, they use that functionality as they start scanning each of the rooms and then kind of get a profile to figure out where the Joker is. Again, spoiler alert for anybody who does not watch The Dark Knight. But this technology exists now on your mobile phone. You can use the technology to scan rooms and support creating augmented reality type content. Listening to someone who is a practitioner as a product manager inside an organization like Unity was fascinating. So there's some really cool things there, but you've got to be really intentional because it could be a quick road to procrastination by just having stuff go on in the background and you feel like you're doing a lot of work, but the reality is you're not getting anything done. The last thing that I would leave you with, leave it in a better place than it was than when you arrived. Don't just pitch your same crap there, trying to do the same thing in a new medium. It's why LinkedIn has become a cesspool of salespeople selling to each other. It's why a lot of these other platforms just kind of go downhill. Don't do that inside Clubhouse, although I think that is happening to some extent. I mean, there's some of these rooms where they've got 1,000 people on there. Can you imagine being on a conference call with 1,000 people? How much value are you really going to get out of that? And if there's 1,000 people in that conference call, someone likely is pontificating from the front of the room. You're not taking advantage of the access that you might have in a small room where you could interact directly with people. I opened up a room a couple of weeks ago and I had a couple of people who were just out drinking one night in Amsterdam come on, and they started asking some sales questions. It was awesome because I was out chipping and putting and they were asking questions and there was a lot of value, but it was a total of 3 people in a room. There's an intimacy that can happen that's really cool. So leave it in a better place than when you found it.
Great advice. Great advice. And if Mike can do rooms while he's out putting and chipping, maybe I should start rooms while I'm out for a walk and just see what happens. All right. Follow up with Mike, send a question. And if you need a Clubhouse invite, perhaps you will end up with one of the 5 Mike is offering. Thank you so much, Mike. This has been fun. And thank you for joining us for this episode. Hopefully we will run into you inside of Clubhouse.